Navigating purchasing a home as a veteran is no small feat, especially when it comes to finding the right place to call home. In this episode, we're uncovering real estate strategies every veteran should know before buying. From choosing the right agent to avoiding common pitfalls, we've got the insight that could save you time, stress, and even money. And stick around to the end. We're sharing tips and strategies that will make your next purchase your best one yet. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all those things with a fellow veteran. Thanks for watching. I'm here with Mike Linley from Denovo Realty. How you doing, Mike?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. So 26 short years in the military.
Very short years in the military. 26 years and 12 days.
26 years, 12 days, but who's counting?
Right.
And how long, well, I shouldn't say how long you've been retired, but that 26 years, that went fast.
Oh, it was a blink of an eye. I can't even explain how fast it went. Especially the older you get, the faster the years go by.
Sure, absolutely. And in those 26 years, how many times did you personally move?
Oh, man. I think altogether, it was almost 11 times.
11 times.
Yes.
So you're no stranger to moving as a veteran.
Not at all.
And you've been in the real estate world. How many years have you been doing real estate?
Around 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
So, and you've probably helped a lot of veterans move in that time too.
I have. Love to. That's my passion.
That's awesome. What made you get into real estate?
Well, so what I ended my career with as a first sergeant, I helped morale, welfare, and discipline of the unit. And, moving folks and folks coming in was very important to me. So I tried HR, I tried contracting, I tried several different things. However, I thought getting into real estate and helping veterans, purchase their home, get through the red tape, not be stressed out is the best way I could provide my services.
So between your personal experience and your real estate experience, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say you're an expert in helping veterans move.
I would want to say that, but it's always a learning experience.
Awesome. So what initially drew you to specialize in helping veterans with their moves?
Well, I think a huge thing was experience. Like you said, I've moved many times. I've been in an area where you're overseas and your spouse is in one state and you're trying to move to a third place, and it's tough and difficult to make those type of moves. And I understand that. I understand that there are time constraints on military folks. I understand that there, are in processings that have to happen and those type things. So I think helping to navigate or helping folks navigate that process while buying a home is something I can do.
There are a lot of things that the average civilian probably wouldn't recognize or be familiar with. And with that in mind, are there certain home features or neighborhood characteristics that veterans typically prioritize during their home search?
Well, I would say that there are certain areas, I think a commute, how fast can we get to base? If you're retired, where is the VA hospital from here? Those type of things. And I think that they also want to, a lot of times they don't want a fixer up. Now, I would say many. Now, every once in a while you get a veteran that definitely has the ability to fix things up, but they want a house that is easily, you can move in. You don't have any stress. It's a safe place. It's in a safe neighborhood. Situational awareness is important to me as a retired military vet. I'm sure it's important to a lot of folks. You want a good military-friendly community, those type things, and I think that's important.
Yeah, especially if you might get deployed. You want your family in a good place. Where they have lots of support.
Absolutely. You got to know your neighbors. It's always great to be in an area that has a lot of military folks.
Yeah, that's neat. What are some common challenges veterans face in today's real estate market, and how do you help them overcome them?
So I think the biggest one, and it frustrates me, that a lot of sellers fear VA loans.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they have this idea that it's going to take longer or that the appraisal process is horrible. And that's just not the case. I mean, your appraisal is being done by the same guy that is appraising a conventional loan, what have you. The loan process, and I want to, throw in a little tip about y'all. Y'all are the only ones that I've used that have done a VA loan and got clear to close in 10 days. Mm-hmm. That's the fastest out of all the folks I use. That's the fastest I've done. So it doesn't take an extraordinary amount of time to do a VA loan. The appraisal process isn't horribly difficult, as long as you know what to look for. A lot of times people don't know what to look for. You don't know what to look for.
Yeah, going back, I mean, thanks for the plug. 10 days is our goal. We're 95% of our loans are clear to close, or I should say fully approved in 10 days or less. And right now, including VA, we're at like 7.8 days in total. Nice. So that's not just something we do once in a while. It's something we do all the time.
All the time.
But thank you for bringing that up. But, you also brought up things like appraisals and,
yes.
The people, the sellers are fearful of a VA loan because of old stigmas. I mean, when we're talking old stigmas, we're talking 30-year-old stigmas that haven't been the way they've changed in the last 30 years. And people still don't realize, yes, the VA loan does protect the veteran from certain things with the house, but yes. The house has to be safe, sanitary, yes. And these things. But the requirements aren't terribly strict.
They're not horribly strict. There are some things you look for, like,
right.
In a wooden framed house around here, we look for wood rot.
Correct.
But it happens all the time. So that's not a stressful.
And that's not a bad thing as a buyer to look for.
Right. No, that's everybody wants to look for that, but it's something that you can identify early on,
right. And
say, hey, this just needs to be, because, it might be 2 inches of wood rot. You can take care of that.
Typically minutes. Around that garage,
around
the door
garage
to the outside, right?
Yes, exactly.
and we do a lot of VA loans and really they're not much different than a conventional loan as far as time frame if you're working with someone who knows what they're doing. That's the big piece. Can you share an example of a memorable home buying experience with a veteran client and what made it successful?
Well, there are a lot. I love helping VA guys and gals get their home. Mm-hmm. But I just recently had one this year that he's a prior Marine. He's always a Marine.
Well, always a Marine,
right?
Yeah.
So, but a Marine, did 12 years in the Marine Corps, got out. He was a saver. He was adamant about being a saver, which is great. Mm-hmm. And he had a nice chunk of money, and all of a sudden he has, I want a house. And then we looked at a house. He wanted a house that was massive and a lot of money. And he's like, I got the money, and we talked about it. And so you have to kind of gear him down a little bit. Like, do you need this now? And as I want anybody to buy a loan or buy a house that they want.
Right.
But I also want to help people keep things in perspective.
Sure.
Like, okay, so you're in a contract job, you're making good money. That's great. This house is going to cost you a certain amount of money, which is, wow, it's a lot for a single guy. Mm-hmm. This is 6 bedrooms. You need 6 bedrooms for a single guy, and so those type of things. And you just talk to them and you say, what's your long-term goal? How well can this house, what's your exit strategy? You're always thinking ahead. Mm-hmm. And so you put some of those thoughts in their heads, and this guy came out and he ended up buying exactly what he needed and maybe a little bit more, but it was so much less expensive, and it was a great house for him.
Well, I think it's neat because a lot of agents, when they hear, "Oh, I want to buy a $700,000 house," the agents see dollar signs, right?
Yes.
And it's a short-term mentality because you genuinely help people get what they need.
Yes.
That was what pays back. Not that you look for a return, but if you genuinely help people to find what they really need, whether they know it or not, and they figure it out like you did there, that goes a long way with people. They remember that.
Right.
They're not treating like a commission.
Exactly.
Right?
And he has absolutely thanked me for helping him see that, that what he needed and what he wanted. Now, granted, one day he can get there, mm-hmm. but, maybe not right this second. Let's build up to that.
Sure. So. Yeah, absolutely. what key questions should veterans ask to ensure they're choosing the right real estate agent? If you're a veteran, you're out looking for the right agent to buy a home, what should they be asking you or other agents out there?
Well, I would say, one of the first things is that are you working with a savvy lender, a VA savvy lender? And of course, I only work with VA savvy lenders. It's extremely important. But then they need to know the process of the VA. While there is no down payment on the VA, there's still closing costs.
Right.
They need to understand that. There's a VA funding fee. But what happens if you have a disability?
Yep.
Those types of things get erased. You got to know those things. And what are you looking for whenever you're buying a house? How can you sell the VA to the seller? Because that's what I have to do sometimes. I may look at a house. They'll accept conventional. They'll accept FHA. They'll accept cash, but they won't accept
That's
VA.
crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
And so you call the agent, you build up a relationship, you ask them, you overcome the objections that they have for selling to the VA, and you help sell the VA.
And then you have to understand that in order to sell it. And I remember during COVID, I was appalled, quite frankly, that so many sellers wouldn't take VA during the COVID times, 20 and 21. So much so that we went out and we did presentation after presentation dispelling the myths of VA loans, because it's unfair to penalize the veteran with, they've earned that right. The benefits are earned. It's not like FHA is not earned. Anyone can get an FHA loan. And FHA has its own stringencies, but they'll allow FHA, but not VA. It's almost like, counterintuitive. Like and it's a great loan for the right. It's a great loan.
Well, see, and I've had a person tell me, and this is, unfortunate, but a person told me, well, VA people are poor. No, they're not poor. This is a benefit that we are allowed and that we have earned, like you said. So just because you're not putting money down doesn't mean that we don't have money.
No, it's a benefit.
It's a benefit that we are entitled to.
And, I'll take that a step further because, people back when I started doing loans 20 plus years ago, there was a lot of subprime loans and they were 100% financing for 5 whatever credit score. And there's a difference between those loans and a veteran. Okay. Veteran, now you can answer me this. During your basic training, did they teach you financial responsibility?
They did.
Yeah. Now, in the schools, they don't teach that these days. So the veteran has a leg up on financial responsibility, so much so that the VA loan has one of the lowest foreclosure rates out of any loan, despite the low down payment. Right. Yeah. And that goes to the discipline we talked about discipline prior to this conversation. Yes. It goes to the discipline of the borrower versus the loan type. Right. And, I feel strongly that the VA is, in my opinion, is the single best loan out there if you have benefits, especially if you've been deemed 10% disabled by the VA and you can waive your VA funding fee. Right. There really is no better loan. The rates are typically better and everything. So.
Right. Absolutely.
And it upsets me to hear people that still think in that mentality, because I've done loans for high executives back in the day. They retired from the military, so they had a pension, right? So they have income coming in whether they get out of bed or not. Right. And then they go work for another company and they retire with benefits and work for a third company after the military, second company, and in an executive position where they're making a ton of money. So to say that the people that use VA are poor, and now you can use VA if you're buying a $2 million house. You can do VA loan.
VA loan, yep.
It's incredible.
People don't understand that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that got trained by our U.S. military that went out to the workforce and get very high-paying jobs. Yes. Look at all the defense contractors around us right
Absolutely.
now. So, I like to educate the people so we don't have that mentality. But, those stigmas have been around a long time, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, what is the most important advice you'd offer veterans beginning their journey towards homeownership?
I would say your long-term goal. What is your long-term goal? A lot of veterans, a lot of active duty folks are coming in. They ask, so that they're going to come in and probably leave. Well, are you going to sell? Are you going to keep it as a rental property? Those type of things. So understand your long-term goal. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Understand that there's more than just the mortgage. You need to have your taxes and your income, your insurance and those type of things. So they need to understand that. Mm-hmm. I feel you, and I love this part. This is one of the best parts about being an agent for veterans is they need to know the area, but sometimes they're not here.
Yep.
So we're out there videoing, or I call it videoing, but it's with the phone.
Yeah, correct.
So, driving around and checking out the areas, but you want to know the areas. What are the good school districts? What are the safe areas? And what are the areas that are close to the base? Those type of things. And, what's your exit strategy? How are you going to, if you do get orders one day, what are you going to do? Are you in an area that tends to have a good appreciation, value on your homes, or is it a slow growing area? Those type of things. And I would say have a nest egg. This one I learned personally, so I understand. First hurricane came through, messed up my roof a little bit. The hurricane insurance deductible is different. So know what your deductible is. Have something there. Have a little nest egg behind that you can take care of those problems that come up. Because, living in base housing, one of the best things is, hey, you don't have to worry about anything, but also it's base housing.
Right.
And then the last thing I would say is when you get here, know your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. It's so important. Military community, there's a lot of military retirees. There's a lot of military folks who have been in the military, veterans that have been in the military, have gotten out that are around here. People don't understand. We have a large military community. Get to know them, because whenever you deploy, whenever something happens, community in the military is a huge thing. And especially in deployed environments and those type of things, it's very important. And you can turn that into your civilian life and have a great community. I love my neighbors. We're there for each other after big storms or something. We all come out, we congregate in the street, survey, and then we take care of each other if anything needs to be taken care of.
That's a lot of good advice. I mean, you talked about in the beginning, long-term goal. What do you got to look at your long-term goal, because if you're going to PCS in 2 years, it might look different than if you're going to be there 5 to 7 years, right?
Right.
And then, when you are, what is your exit strategy you mentioned? I love that, because, some people think about that and some people don't. And the beautiful thing about a VA loan, people think you can only use it once, right?
Right.
You can use it multiple times. And here's the kicker. You can even have 2 VA loans at the same time. Purposefully with bonus entitlement. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And, I've seen veterans that, they leave, I always use Minot, okay? And was that North Dakota?
Why not Minot?
Why not Minot? They leave Minot and their house was relatively inexpensive compared to other areas, and they want to keep that house and rent it out to another, hopefully another veteran. And that's a nice stream of income. Then they get stationed, let's say at Patrick over at the Space Force base, and they want to buy another house. Well, bonus entitlement will let you buy another house with a VA loan. And so now they have a small, rental empire over there in Minot with quality or qualified renters in there.
Right.
So someone else is paying their mortgage and buying in equity, and they've bought a new house to live in. So the VA loan is a bit flexible, and it's a great way to go. But also you mentioned the hurricane piece. Whew. That's we've been a little active in the last couple of years, but we've in Brevard County at least, we've missed a lot of the major hits, whereas other areas weren't so lucky. But our business is 40% VA loans in this area. And, we are veteran owned, operated, and focused. So our focus is a little different than some of our competitors. But at the end of the day, this is one of the largest retiree areas in Florida and in the country.
Right.
Great place to be. So with that, any parting notes? Those are some great tips there at the end. Any parting notes or advice that you can give, last words for a veteran?
I would say if they're looking for an agent, agents need to be concise. You need to be to the point. Veterans don't want to be sold. They want to be told facts. They want the plan. They want to know what is going on. So you better be able to return texts quickly. You better be able to be on your game. And, because they don't want a salesman. They just want somebody to take care of them.
Good. Well, you are that person. So if you're looking for a real estate agent in Brevard County, Florida, give Mike a call. We'll put his contact info down below. With that, if there's any comments, questions, anything, put them down below. We'd love to hear from you. If you're not a subscriber, now's the time to hit the subscribe button. You made it this far. Do all those things. Mike, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.